The connection between Nepal and the UK deepens and develops every year. The Nepalese diaspora in the UK is an integral part of our country. They often share the best of both cultures, a fusion of modern identities. This evening was made possible by the generosity of Ravi Young Lachitchana.
Thank you. Thank you.
Right Honorable Sheikh Bahadur Yuba, distinguished guests from Nepal, Your Excellencies, my lords, honorable members of Parliament, ladies and gentlemen, good evening and namaskar. I'm very pleased to be invited to speak at this dinner, which is in honor of Right Honorable Sheikh Bahadur Yuba and the distinguished guests from Nepal. I had the pleasure to meet with the Prime Minister and the distinguished guests this morning at a breakfast meeting. We did have interesting and productive discussions. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm a great friend of Nepal and I visited Nepal on 3 occasions. The Nepalese are extremely welcoming and friendly people. As a British politician, I'm pleased to say that our political connection with Nepal goes back to over 200 years. Nepal is also recognized in history for the loyal and dedicated service provided by the Gurkhas in our armed forces. In the UK, there is a strong support for the Gurkhas as Gurkhas.
Common faith and parliamentary democracy is a fundamental part of the close relationship with Nepal and India. And when the parliamentary body dedicated to Nepal, APBGN has played an important role for promoting these relations. British Parliament is admired not only as an institution of British democracy but also as a symbol of multi-party democracy and fundamental freedom. Right from the days to Magna Carta, 1215 AD, British Parliament has stood the test of time as a supreme representative body of the people. Today, the United Kingdom signifies a mature democracy with robust democratic institutions. Nepal is a young democracy making sincere efforts to strengthen the foundation of its democratic institutions. Democracy and freedom have not come easily for us. It took a long struggle. Democracy and freedom are dear to me, especially because I myself fought hard alongside with my fellow compatriots for many decades. The Constitution of Nepal is promulgated in 2015 by the culmination of the long struggle. It is a constitution that consolidated key features of the parliamentary democracy, periodic elections, inclusive representation, the rule of law, and independent judiciary, separation of power, checks and balances, the peaceful transfer of political power. Our constitution guarantees 33% representation of women in the federal parliament and the provincial assemblies, and 40% of local level. All at present, women occupies 41% of all elected officials. The current coalition government which I lead is deeply committed to the implementation of this constitution in its natural aspects. Our two countries firmly believe that democracy makes people truly sovereign. However, it would be a mistake to take democracy for granted. We need to be mindful that democracy must continue to people's aspiration for socio-economic development. For a country like Nepal, constrained resources stand as a major challenge for economic development. On top of that, COVID-19 pandemic has further constrained our ability to deliver development. Dear friends, we are encouraged by the goodwill and solidarity expressed in the UK Parliament towards Nepal on various occasions. It is a warm reminder that we have great friends in difficult times during the COVID crisis. The appeal honorable members made for Nepal was very thoughtful and generous. I would like to thank the members of this Parliament for this solidarity. I also take the opportunity to express our gratitude to the people of Government of the United Kingdom for continuous support in Nepal's development efforts. The United Kingdom is oldest friend of Nepal ever since the establishment of the bilateral relations in 1868. Our ties has been defined on the basis of friendship, goodwill, and mutual trust. The generation of British workers serves as another important link to time-tested relations. The Parliament of both countries had crucial role to play in further strengthening our relations. I am grateful for the role all party group has played in the federal parliament of Nepal.
I invite Virendra Sharma, Member of Parliament for Ealing Southall, to the stage. Virendra has served as the Member of Parliament since 2007, before that working in the public sector, social care, and for the Labour Party as a national officer. In Parliament, Virendra is the chair of the All-Party Parliamentary Group for Nepal, a member of the International Development Select Committee, serves on the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe, and is a member of the panel of chairs. The host of tonight's dinner, Virendra Sharma MP.
When you are the last speaker, it will become a vote of thanks rather than delivering a major speech tonight. Good evening and welcome. And Prime Minister, namaste, and to the delegation. Prime Minister, thank you for being here and for gracing us with your presence. We are truly grateful that you are able to take time out of your schedule to meet us and share this gala dinner with us tonight. When I was first made aware that we would have the honor of your presence, I was keen that we show you the value of the UK-Nepal relationship together.
Yeah.
The link between the United Kingdom and Nepal stretches back far into history. Over more than 200 years, the commitment, dedication, and sacrifice of Gurkha soldiers for the UK has been a constant source of pride and gratitude for millions. I'm delighted that this evening we have been joined by so many from different walks of life. People here to celebrate a long and enduring friendship. People from politics, government, civil society, and business. Those from Nepal, those who love Nepal, and those who will come to love Nepal. I got the indication from quite a few of my colleagues tonight that they wanted to go back to Nepal. As the chair of the all-party parliamentary group for Nepal, I'm delighted that the honor of hosting this dinner falls to me. In my years as chair, I have been proud of every single meeting we have had, of the times we have spoken up in Parliament for Nepal, and of the issues we have raised for mutual concern. The strength, commitment, and hard work of the Nepalese diaspora in this country never fails to impress me. I do want to recognize two members of that diaspora tonight. I know Dominic and Lord Sheikh has already mentioned them, but I want to extend my thanks to Ravi and to Mahanta.
Thank you.
Without them tonight would not be the special night it is. Thank you. I also like to thank, sometimes we don't do it in our passion and rush. I would like to thank Dominic and Spencer. To make sure this event becomes a success, and we have the representation from all walks of life, especially the political arena, because we are honoring the political leader of the country. So we all wanted that. So thank you very much, Dominic and Spencer tonight, and convey my thanks to the rest of the team when we go back. I'm delighted to say I have been to Nepal 5 times in these years and have always found a nation keen to develop our country's ties, proud of our shared history, and unafraid of modernity. The strength and fortitude Kathmandu showed in the face of a devastating earthquake was inspiring, just as the growth since has been. In 2 centuries, the Gurkha regiments, Lord Lancaster touched it, have provided brave and loyal service to the British Armed Forces and have shown themselves to be anyone's equal.
Military club this evening because tomorrow, the 31st of October, marks the 207th anniversary of the demise of Major General Rollo Gillespie, once attempting to take the hill fort of Columbia, now in England, but was in Nepal. where an overwhelming force of better equipped British soldiers, some 4,000, failed to defeat 650 Nepali soldiers in the fort. And it led to an honourable draw, and that was the start of our historic relationship, where one of your predecessors, Prime Minister Thapa, allowed then the East Indian Army to recruit Gurkhas into their force. And that relationship has continued literally for the last 7 years and will for many years to come. And I first got to visit your country as a young 18-year-old Gurkha officer, doing a bridge recce north of Pokhara. And I absolutely fell in love with the place and have been back many years since. I have continued my association with the brigade, having served in Bosnia, Afghanistan with it, as a soldier, and now, as was rightly said, as the Deputy Colonel Commandant. So I'm delighted that the Colonel Commandant, General Richard Wardlaw, my dear friend, is also with us. We continue to work closely, and I simply want to thank you, really. We now, as you know, not only have 3,500 Gurkhas in the British Army, but many others who have transferred away from the brigade. And they make such an outstanding contribution that we simply wouldn't know what to do without them. They form the backbone of our relationship. There's so much more that I could say, but it's an enormous pleasure to be here. And being a good soldier and as a politician tonight, I'll speak to my 2 minutes.
And namaste. It's lovely to have you with us, Prime Minister, and to have such wonderful number of guests here. Obviously, Nepal, being a relatively small country, has a huge footprint, and you've brought together the chain gang of London. So if you're a mayor, put up your hand. And if you're a council leader, put up your hand. And I noticed that it's the Prime Minister's 5th consecutive term. So, Councillor Mason, you're only on your 1st. You've got 5 more AGMs to keep going. And it is wonderful that you've brought us all together in this way. And what better theme than the environment? We know that this week, sadly, 200 Nepali have passed due to the monsoons. And we know how important the concept of water and the importance for communities that water means in Nepal. And we do hope that our government works very hard to get everybody committed to climate change pledges so that in Nepal and in countries like Nepal, which desperately need a solution to climate change, we can see that. I would like to thank my colleague Virendra Sharma, and if you're a parliamentarian, put up your hand. Good. Baroness Jenny, and lots of MPs, that's very good, bringing us all together again. And Virendra and I sit on 2 all-party groups, all-party group for TB, tuberculosis, and all-party group for malaria and neglected tropical diseases. And if we don't sort out climate change, we may end up having malaria in more countries than we do now. Sadly, so many children lose their lives to these sorts of diseases, but we must keep the temperature down so that we don't see those diseases getting even worse. I briefly wanted to also put on record how wonderful it is to have you in London, because obviously the spotlight, of course, is in Scotland, but many of us will be watching on our television screens, partly because Glasgow gets full very quickly, not like London with all of our hotels, but also so that we can have this special time together, because next week you'll be so busy. It's a very special place for tourists, Nepal. Before I came this evening, my husband dug out his Nepal phrase book. I'm sure he can say about as much as he wants.